So there's a bunch of skills I would love to learn, but have never really found time to actually learn. And this includes things like playing the guitar, learning to play chess, learning to speak Spanish, learning to do kickboxing, all these different things I'm interested in learning. But I have a wife, I have a 2-year-old kid, I have a full-time job, I have various other hobbies, and I try to have a social life. So it just makes it really hard to like squeeze in time to actually focus on learning these skills. But I think I found a solution, and that's what I wanted to share in this video. So this is centered around a note-taking system that has 4 main principles. It has easy drop-in, so anytime I can drop into a note and I know exactly what to do next and exactly what the state of play is. The second thing is it has a pipeline of processing new content, so whenever I come across some new material within this area of this skill, I know how to process it and it's kind of already there in place. It has this buildable reference, which over time constitutes a very valuable resource for myself to refer to at any point on this particular skill. And finally, it enables me to update my strategy over time explicitly, so that at different moments in time, as you'll kind of progress along this skill hierarchy, there's different approaches you should take, and this system kind of makes that very explicit. If that sounds a little bit abstract, let me actually show you what it looks like, and I'm going to demonstrate it in the case of chess. So last year, I spent about 3-4 months just kind of learning a bit of chess on the background. I mean, I was still quite busy. I was doing my master's degree and I had various other commitments, but I just in the evenings or in free times, I would study a little bit of chess, and I really saw a lot of progress in my chess ability during that time, and it was like super satisfying. So let me show you what that looks like. So the way that it starts is with a central note on the topic that you're trying to learn or the skill you're trying to build. So here is chess, and it's kind of one central note. And this is what it looks like when it's fleshed out, but actually just to show you what it would look like if we had a completely new note or a completely new project that we're doing. Another thing here is I'm using a software called Obsidian. Now, hopefully this demonstrates the principles. The main actually important thing is that you have this linking, this ability to link to different notes and subnotes. This actually might not be critical. I think you probably could replicate this elsewhere. I really like Obsidian for various reasons. But the key thing is that you can have this like high level note, and then it links into then like embedded notes, which I guess are lower down in the hierarchy. So here I have like this openings note, and that's linked to from this like high level chess notes. Okay, so let's make a blank note here, and I'm just going to call it Exciting Project 2. Okay, because I'm not feeling very creative. Now what I can do is I can drop in this template, which I have configured here in this software in Obsidian. And the exact structure is not that important, and the exact nature of putting the template in isn't that important, but what I do here is I will have kind of like the working documents, which is what are things that are happening right now that I'm using, you know, what am I really working on? The kind of high level strategy, which comes to this point I mentioned about having an evolving strategy over time. I can drop different strategies in here and update that, and the relevant background material. So to make that concrete, in terms of learning chess, what does that look like? So one of the first things when it comes to learning a new skill is to come up with your like initial strategy. So the way that I did this with chess is I looked at Reddit, I looked at any other kind of sources on the internet with recommendations around, okay, what books to read first, what order of sequence of things to learn in order to build your skills. And the conclusion was that openings in chess is like a really important thing to learn first, and maybe like that's a good place to start. And I also got all these different recommendations of what to read. So I got various different book recommendations, and I think this is the note here, best resources for learning chess. So I just kind of went through and extracted all these different books and maybe like a couple of notes and different Reddit comments. And here are some examples of books. And then I just made notes for each of those books. And I can put those into the relevant background. The main book it seems that I was reading at the time was Chess Opening for Dummies. So what I would do is I would open this book, and every so often I would kind of like go through different parts of it and extract out the key points and basically make my condensed summary notes on this particular book. And I gradually worked my way through this over the course of maybe like 7 or 8 sessions. I'd read different sections of the book. And the way that I would organize that and coordinate it while doing it is I would always put something in this next step section. So maybe like the next steps initially is chapters from Chess Openings for Dummies. And a nice thing with Obsidian is I can link that, and then that will link directly to this note. So if I now open that, that will go into the notes. My computer's being a little bit slow, I think because I'm recording the video. Okay, so it's not really gonna, yeah, there we go. So now we're in the notes. But if we go back up, and then maybe I would put like a subnote like chapter 3, then chapter 5, chapter 8 are the ones that I'm prioritizing next. And so then I process kind of through these notes, and it just gives you that little like drop-in place to go every time I'm coming back to review these. And so over time, I then processed this note and various other resources as well. And then I went on to the kind of level above this, which is to summarize the main openings that I've got from all these different sources into a central note for me as a future reference, which I believe is this note here is openings. So let's have a quick look. Yeah, so this is like the different structure. So okay, you have open, semi-open, closed, semi-closed, flank, and then general principles. And that's kind of at the higher level. And then each of those, you can then go down kind of into them. And I could at some point, if I'm elaborating this out, make a note on French defense, make a note on Sicilian and Caro-Kann, and kind of gradually build up this reference. But I'm basically just combining all these like atomic educational content pieces, consuming them all, and then building up this layer above that, which then gets referenced from this central document. And then a couple other sections is worth pointing out is so within next steps, I might sometimes have like a kind of to do and understand, or like certain open questions that I don't yet know. And again, next time, if I'm having a quick drop in, I'm like, okay, I've got half an hour, let me learn some chess. I can drop in here, I can look at, okay, what to understand, okay, positional versus tactical, should I read about that for half an hour? Should I kind of Google around it, try and understand what this distinction is? And likewise, if I want to refresh my memory on an opening, then I can come in here and there'll be something in relevant background I can then go through. So is that nice ability to just come straight into the notes with a 20-minute block of time, a 30-minute block of time, and know what to do next, which I find very helpful. And then on the subject of high-level strategy, the thing I find helpful here is that I can make let's say I want to make a strategy getting started with learning, okay, let's say Python programming. And then in this notes, I can have a bit of a reflection when I'm starting to learn about Python, and I can ask myself, what's the best way to go about this initially? But after a couple of months, maybe that advice is no longer relevant. I've learned so much more about it. I know what's actually a better way to learn about programming. And okay, so my computer's being a bit slow. So like here, strategy. And I can write maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs, reflect on what's the best way to learn about Python, and then I update it. And once my computer loads, and then I can put let's say phase 2 of learning Python. And I can update my strategy. So maybe I realize, actually, I've kind of been neglecting a really important principle of coding, and it would be best for me to learn that by watching more videos rather than doing courses, or maybe I need to work on some projects, and I can just update that. And sometimes what I will do is I'll also put like a little time box at the end of it. So 2022-06, so I know this was in June 2022, and I can just see this kind of linear progressing strategy. So this is how I implement the fourth feature of this system, which is around continually updating your strategy as the goalposts move and as your knowledge of how best to learn this skill moves as well. Now obviously here I'm talking about chess, but I do think that this applies to lots of other subjects. So if I was learning, for example, to draw, which is one thing I'm interested in, then I would start a drawing note, and then I can come in and be dropping different resources and what to do next, and like notes and strategy, and gradually build up that resource of how I can actually learn how to draw. Likewise, guitar, maybe it would be different. I would have like the chords that I'm learning, and then a reference of like what these different chords are and what songs I want to learn next, and kind of have this pipeline of system. So again, if I have a 20-minute window, I want to learn some guitar, I can just drop in, go Control Open Guitar, and then go straight into that document and then start learning about it. And obviously this is kind of simple, like there's nothing crazily advanced that's going on here, but I think the key principle for me is just reducing the friction when it comes to doing that session. So like if I have half an hour and I know that I want to learn the guitar in it, maybe if I don't have somewhere I can just go and see exactly what's next, and I haven't played the guitar in 2 months, I might just be like, I could play the guitar, but I don't really know what I would do in that session. Whereas if you have this note, you come in, you drop in, you see, okay, when I was doing guitar 2 months ago, this is what I needed to do, this is what I was gonna do next, let me go and do that, let's just play that song, and just reduce that friction, and then it kind of helps and maintain that low frequency habit for building a skill that you want to build. And it also becomes a really nice reference, so if at any point in future I want to like refresh my knowledge of the openings, like right now, I haven't looked at this for 6 months. I could pop in, I can look at my openings, I can look through the different notes and resources I have here, and I think I would refresh my memory pretty well. Whereas if I didn't have this, so for example, when I was younger and I was learning chess, I played chess like pretty competitively up till the age of around like 12. And then I think I picked up again, maybe like 15, 16. I had a bit of a gap. I just couldn't really remember like a lot of the theory I learned when I was much younger. So I was a much weaker player. Whereas if I had had the foresight as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old to compile all these notes into one place, I would have been in a much better position to then actually come back, get my skill level up quite quickly, and then start progressing again. So yeah, that's it. That's basically the system that I used. It's not super complex. It's not like a game-changing approach necessarily, but I found it really, really helpful. So I thought I'd just share it in case you also find it helpful. If there's anything that's not clear, let me know, drop a comment or reach out in some other way. Happy to answer it. Happy to do any like kind of clarification or follow-up videos if there's something here that's not clear or if there's something you'd like me to elaborate on. So feel free to reach out.